Hello everyone and welcome to this video. Now today I'm going to be doing an album review. I'm going to be taking a look at this record here, which is Long After Dark by Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. So yes, I'll just be doing my usual thing in this video, giving a bit of background information about the album, then showing you my original vinyl copy and also the new recent reissue of the album that came out, Deluxe reissue that came out a couple of weeks ago, and then go through each of the album's songs in detail. So this album was Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers' fifth studio album, released on the 2nd of November in 1982, and it was their third album produced by Jimmy Iovine. So he had produced their breakout album, like widely regarded as such, particularly in America, at least, of Damn the Torpedoes, then that relationship continued on the follow-up album, Hard Promises, and then onto this album as well. Now, this working relationship was perhaps starting to get maybe a little bit fraught, at this point in time. There was a lot of difficulties in kind of deciding which songs would go on this album and what the sort of general direction of the album would be. So on the last album, Hard Promises, there'd been a couple of tracks which had had a slightly kind of softer feel to them, things like Letting You Go and Insider, and I think the last track as well, You Can Still Change Your Mind. They've got a much softer feel to them. But instead on this album, the decision was taken to return it to a bit more of a kind of meat and potatoes rock sort of feel. Now, in terms of the Heartbreakers personnel, there had been a couple of lineup changes. So this album was the first to feature Howie Epstein on bass. So original bass player Ron Blair had left the band sometime in 1981. I think he was, much like the rest of the band, kind of suffering burnout from constant album touring sort of cycle. And I think he'd also had been playing with other bands as well, and on some live appearances couldn't make certain live appearances. So he left the band and like I said, Howie Epstein came on board. Petty discovered Howie from after producing an album of Del Shannon's, and effectively stole Howie Epstein from Del Shannon's band. And he Howie Epstein was a great addition to the Heartbreakers. He sang quite a lot throughout the band's throughout his time with the band, doing a lot of backing vocals, and his voice really blended well and became a real integral part of the Heartbreakers sound. So in retrospect, Petty himself said that this album was a kind of treading water album, and that he wasn't sure that they were making the right decisions about certain songs. So he's referring here to a lot of material that they recorded for the album, which would eventually which would ultimately be not released, in many cases not until this album, or some songs were given away to other artists as well. So really there's a lot of lost gems from this era, which could have made this album even better than it is for me, particularly if I could go through some of the highlights from this reissue in a bit, but certainly for me, tracks like Keeping Me Alive, Ways to Be Wicked, and Never Be You would have been great additions to the album. Now, upon its original release in 1982, it received a mixed to poor critical reception, with many critics kind of echoing Petty's sentiment towards the album. Felt a bit treading water. They're not really doing anything new on this album, particularly in a world early 80s, quite an innovative time in music, a lot of new kind of sounds and sort of artists kind of springing up. Petty was perhaps maybe a bit old hat by this point, but it was still a commercial success. So it charted at number 9 in America, but only number 45 in the UK, where Petty didn't really enjoy much in the way of mainstream commercial success. So while it was still a top 10 album in America, in both the US and the UK, it was a commercial step down from the previous year's Hard Promises album. So anyway, I will just show you my vinyl copies of it here. So this is a original UK pressing of the album. So I mean, it's a good cover. Like on it, they're just Petty with one of his guitars there, and then a nice band shot like on the back of it there. And in terms of packaging, no gatefold, just a basic like in his sleeve, and then all of the lyrics. And then this is on the MCA Backstreet Records label there. So yeah, it is quite a nice vinyl design, this one here, but it is definitely eclipsed by this recent reissue that had come out just slightly earlier this year. And so basically, yeah, this has kind of got a lovely kind of mirrory, kind of shiny kind of cover there, which is really nice. Same on the back of it there, just with the band on it. And then, yeah, I'll just quickly show what you get with this here. So it comes with kind of cards like inner sleeves, but also these kind of printed ones as well, which I'll get round to showing. But it's a lovely gatefold here, nice picture like off the band, some linear notes written by David Frinkle, I think, as a Rolling Stone journalist there. And this is a lovely vinyl pressing of it here. Both records just the same in terms of like their like design, but they look like this, which is just absolutely gorgeous. So yeah, really nice pressing like off it here. And then with this as well, you also get some beautiful printed like inner sleeve. So you get the lyrics on one side, a lovely kind of photo collage on the other, and then similar design with the other sleeve as well to go along with the bonus material there. Just lots of nice photos. And then and I'm not sure like if it's just exclusive with this particular version, but you also get a lovely sort of printed card inserts with a lovely photo of Tom on it there. Possibly, I think it was just taken from the You Got Lucky video possibly, but yeah, really nice photo there. So no, all round, a really great reissue. It's not super expensive, this, and it's and like I said, it's got another kind of whole disc of kind of bonus stuff there, another kind of about 45 minutes there, like of bonus stuff, longer than the actual album like itself. So no, a really nice reissue here. So anyway, I will just now go over each of the album's tracks. I'll score each song out of 10 and then use those scores to give us a overall percentage marking for the album. Okay, so the first track up on the album is called A One-Story Town. Now this is a really great rocking track to kick off the album. Lyrically, it's about kind of, escaping from a kind of limiting place, kind of like, so like the place like you're from, and like that, and like a place that where he sings like where everything is closed to the ground. But then it's kind of, there's a bit of a twist like in the second verse when it turns out that it's the singer's kind of girlfriend who's kind of left, and that it's and like it's like the singer, he's not escaping, but he's stuck in like the one-story town, like off like the song. It's a song which I probably like overlooked like for maybe like quite a few years. You know, it doesn't for me quite have the same punch and same I guess memorableness as previous opening tracks, things like Refugee and tracks like The Waiting like as well. But it is a very solid opener, this one here, very well produced, and a really great song. Okay, second track up on the album is You Got Lucky. Now this one is a really interesting song, this one here, in terms of its production. You've got a very prominent keyboard synthesizer part on it here, which is it's an interesting change in direction like for Petty, and kind of perhaps kind of foreshadows, I guess, some of the more synthesizer-y kind of contemporary work he'd do on the following album, Southern Accents. But it's a kind of synth part which it kind of melds well with Mike Campbell's guitar part, and like it's a good sound like overall. Maybe a bit dated, but I mean, like, I don't mind. Like, I quite like the 80s sound, like, kind of personally. Lyrically, it's a good song as well. Kind of about like an overconfident guy who's sort of telling like his girl that she got lucky when he found her. So quite a kind of cocky kind of like attitude to this one here. But Petty sings it well, and the chorus just really soars like that. Good love is hard to find. But again, I'm not sure if it's Howie Epstein who you've got doing the harmony vocals, but just really soars. This was the first single taken from the album, and it was a bit of an MTV hit with a big budget music video to go along with the track, and was a success like in like America, where it reached number 20 on the Billboard charts, but in the UK it failed to chart like many of Petty's singles. But no, a really good song there, You Got Lucky. We'll get a 9 out of 10. Okay, and then track 3 is probably my favourite on the album. It's Deliver Me. And yeah, one of my favourites on the album, one of my favourite Petty songs, period. I think it's just, I think just in terms of like the performance on it, it is the Heartbreakers firing on all cylinders. Kicks up with this great kind of powerful sort of like guitar riff, and then just this chorus which just again it absolutely soars, and then a middle eighth where the song is in a slightly different direction. It's just a great track, and it's lyrically it's maybe a bit general, kind of just sort of talks about it kind of describes sort of doubts perhaps. He sings like, I never have made my mind up about it, I've just decided to let it all ride. So that, yeah, kind of like living your life, I guess, without kind of like regrets or kind of like looking back or being kind of too, I guess, sentimental about things. It's like I said, the performance on this is just stunning. I think the track is really catchy. Probably should have been a single personally for me. Yeah, it is a great song. Okay, next up is a Change of Heart. Now this one is another solid rocker. This one here kicks off with a great riff, which I've read was inspired by ELO's song Do Ya, which when you hear them kind of side by side, like you can kind of see, yeah, it probably was influenced like by like that, and like it's possible that, you know, when Tom Petty and Jeff Lynne kind of became sort of friends like a few years later, perhaps this kind of came up like in conversation, like who knows. But it's a really good track, this one here. Great chorus, great kind of again multi-layered kind of vocals like on like this one here, like it works like really well. Again, lyrically it's about a kind of guy who's kind of been sort of like let down like betrayed. I mean, it's not new territory for Tom Petty like by any means, but he delivers like some great imagery, like in like the lyrics. He talks about like, I've stood in your gallery, seen what's hanging from the walls. You were the moon and sun. You're just a loaded god now. He sings on it. I mean, musically it's good. It's maybe a bit Tom Petty by numbers, possibly you could like accuse this one of being, but it's a good song though. I think it was the third single from the album, and it was another US hit. It reached number 21 like in like America, but again failed to chart in the UK. So no, Change Your Heart, a really good track there, an 8 out of 10 from me. Okay, next up now, which closes off side one, is called Finding Out. This one is another really good solid rocker, this one here. Real kind of, yeah, energetic drive to it. Bit like Deliver Me, the band are firing like on all cylinders like on this track. But again, despite its kind of, yeah, really upbeat, kind of ferocious kind of musical like arrangement, it's a kind of lyric which deals with slightly darker kind of like subject matter of kind of, yeah, loneliness and kind of hopelessness. Like he sings like, sometimes at night I've had to fight with this emptiness. It's been so hard to see there's something more than this. But it's a performance that, I mean, Petty delivers like with like gusto, like on like this one here, and just, yeah, like really like is like another really solid track there for me. So yeah, Finding Out will get an 8 out of 10. Okay, flipping over the album, side 2 kicks off with We Stand a Chance. Now this one, again, really stands out for me like on the album. I really like the sound of the guitars on this. It just sounds so gritty and dirty. And then the kind of chorus where you've got a kind of like piano part and then sort of like these hand claps like in it just really work. And it's, again, it's a bit slower, like it's not quite as ferocious rocker like as Finding Out or Deliver Me, but I think it just kind of stands out because it is slightly more like of like a mid-tempo track, and lyrically again it is maybe a little bit like on like the darker side about a man who kind of, yeah, can't control his kind of actions and kind of like impulses. He sings stand back from me honey, because I don't know what I might do next. No, I'm surprised by this, frightened by this, he sings like on it. But then later on the track describes his feelings as, my whole world is a fountain of flame. And yeah, kind of like on like the chorus, yeah, like our relationship does stand a chance like of him like succeeding. Musically, like as I said, it adds a bit of variety to the album. It's not quite as frantic and upbeat like as the last couple, and it's, yeah, a really good song. So yeah, We Stand a Chance will get a 9 out of 10. Okay, next up is Straight Into Darkness. This one is another really great song. Again, another maybe more slightly kind of, yeah, mid-tempo sort of feel to this one here, with a kind of interesting arrangement, with a kind of prominent kind of piano part. And then this lyric again about the kind of death, like of like a relationship. He talks about like, there's a moment when I really loved her, then one day the feeling just died, we went straight into darkness, out over the line, he sings on it. It's just about, yeah, the difficulties of kind of, yeah, processing like this kind of like sort of like emotions and like that. It's a song, yeah, where really for me the kind of musical arrangement really works and like pays dividends, as well as kind of, yeah, Petty's kind of passionate vocal delivery really just elevates like the track. So this was taken as the second single for the album, and it actually failed to chart in both the US and like the UK. I mean, it's probably not the most commercial sort of song like on the album. It's definitely slightly more moody, like off like a track, a real grower for me. But I must say I do prefer the kind of sort of like live session version. It's like the French TV session version you get like on this bonus disc. I just think just feels a lot more, I don't know, just has a bit more of a sense of like immediacy to it, and yeah, I just think like is a better produced version like of the track. Okay, and then the next up is called Same Old You. Now this one for me is the weakest track on the album personally. It's just a bit of a basic song for me. Again, it's a bit like Petty by Numbers, with a kind of yeah, bluesy kind of rocker. This one, you can imagine kind of like the Rolling Stones kind of doing this one, perhaps. Some decent lyrics about kind of, yeah, I guess bumping into someone you've perhaps not seen for ages, who've kind of changed. He sort of sings like, I remember you back in '72 with your David Bowie hair and your platform shoes. He sings on it, but it's just yeah, kind of bog standard song really for me. Doesn't really do anything. It's not a track I would ever necessarily play like in isolation like off the album. So yeah, it probably is one that if I was, yeah, reconfiguring the album, I would probably give the boot to. And then we get track here, Between Two Worlds. This one is another, for me, another slightly forgettable one here, which again I would probably take out like if I was like rearranging the album. It's quite a long track though, so it's definitely the longest like on the album, and it's just a bit, again, it's a bit of a kind of slow, kind of slodgy track. I do quite like the chorus. Again, the harmony vocals work really well, and lyrically it's a kind of track about kind of, I guess, sexual impulses. This one here talks about like, I know a woman's body is only flesh and bone, goes like the chorus like on it. It's just for me never been a favourite track like off mine, and kind of, yeah, coming back to this album, it's just a song which will I really return to it outside of this review? I mean, probably not, to be fair. So yeah, Between Two Worlds will get a 6 out of 10. And then the album closes off with the track A Wasted Life. Now this one is a song I know which really divides like a lot of like Tom Petty fans. I would say I'm probably more in the kind of, yeah, I actually really like this song sort of camp. It's a low-key ballad to finish the album, one of the only low-key ballads like on the album. And yeah, I mean, like, while I say I do really like it, the verses I think are to die for. Like, I like the production on it, just very low-key, kind of nice kind of keyboard kind of parts like on it. And yeah, just the melody like on the verse is just great. What I can't get on board with this song though is the chorus, and Petty's kind of like ow 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 kind of vocalization he does like on like the chorus just is a little bit cringeworthy for me. But it does stand out like on the album though. I think it's a unique song like on the record, and it is a catchy like as well. And I think it's just like the restraint on the performance really works like on this. So I would give it a 7 out of 10. I just wish it had a better chorus. Okay, so overall, this album would score 80%. So I do think this is a strong and underrated album to it. I think it's got a kind of quite a uniform mood to it, you know, musically energetic, upbeat, but lyrically it explores perhaps some slightly darker themes, darker sides like of like relationships, and sort of like a kind of like a guy's sort of mindset who kind of doesn't feel the world or their life is kind of like going like their way. I do think that it's not a perfect album, though. I mean, I think particularly towards the latter half, there's a couple of tracks which I would definitely swap out for stronger material that appears on this recent like reissue of like the album. I just think that if you'd put on tracks like Keeping Me Alive or Never Be You, it just really would have worked wonders with the album, which does perhaps suffer from becoming a bit predictable as it kind of goes on. Like I said, with this reissue you get an extra 45 minutes of music, and there's some great stuff on here between sort of new tracks which were unfamiliar to me, things like Turning Point, Never Be You, like One to One, as well as then kind of live studio session versions of some of the album's tracks, so things like Finding Out and Straight Into Darkness and Between Two Worlds. All of those I think are actually better in these kind of French TV versions of it. And like I said, Keeping Me Alive, just what a track. It's a song I've always been a massive fan of, ever since I heard it on the Running Down the Dream documentary. It's a song which you just kind of puzzled as to why they left it off the album, because it would be another 10 out of 10 track for me. So overall, I think the kind of not quite weak link on this album, but certainly the fact that it was Jimmy Iovine, the producer, who kind of persuaded Petty to kind of take off some of these slightly more softer tracks. He's probably the reason, I would say, for this album maybe not quite reaching the heights that it perhaps otherwise was capable of. So both in terms of the production, where I prefer the alternate kind of in studio sort of takes off the tracks, but also kind of in choosing which songs made up the album, I just think you could have had a much more well-rounded album here. But it also might have not worked, I've never actually tried to reorder the track list on here, slotting in some of those favourite bonus tracks that appear on there. So it might have not worked to be honest with you. But I think it is interesting. I think Petty himself recognised, the sound's getting a bit stale here. So kind of on the follow-up album, Southern Accents, he'd be bringing in fresh collaborators to kind of sort of shake up the sound. I mean, with mixed results, but at least he was doing something a bit different. This album, though, although the songs are great for the most part, it definitely feels like Damn the Torpedoes Part 2, which, I mean, is no bad thing, because that's a great sound and a great album. So no, I hope you have enjoyed my review here of Tom Petty's album Long After Dark. So yes, I hope you have enjoyed. I would be really interested to know what you think of this album down below in the comments, because it is a because it is a record that definitely does divide Tom Petty fans, but I think is one that, thanks to that reissue, is kind of garnering a bit of a reappraisal. This whole period, definitely one of the most productive and fruitful of Tom Petty's career. So yeah, I hope you have enjoyed the review, and I will see you all next time for the next one. Goodbye.